been talking specifically about some of the LGBTQ plus stuff and how really the problem with a lot of the issues that we as Christians have, and so therefore by extension, Christian Witnesses of Jah, is in talking to LGBTQ plus people about the truth, right? What actually is involved in their lifestyle, right? The consequences, the physical, mental, and emotional damages that result from it, and how that is just not easy to do. People get very sensitive, and you're like expected to just accept everything that is involved in their lifestyle as fine. That is not normal in itself, right? Either you're prepared to discuss the consequences of what you're telling us is normal, or there's a problem before we even get to that, right? We can show you, conversely, that our heterosexual lifestyle practiced normally, right? I'm not talking about abnormal instances, right? You could even have sodomy in a heterosexual. Either way, my point is normal heterosexual anatomy and physiology in the way that we typically relate doesn't involve any abuse. It doesn't require any abuse, right? I'm not talking again about people who lose their cool. I'm talking about the act and the normal parameters of the relationship that you are to expect and explore. It doesn't involve abuse, right? No Maltops. I'm not drinking my pee. That's not really appropriate, but we'll just assume you were trying to be funny and failed there, Maltops. Either way, it doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to remove you for that, Maltops. Put you in a timeout. Very, very poor taste right there. Very bad, Maltops. Maltops has had his moments before. Although he had seemed like he had reformed a bit, but it's okay, Maltops. You might get another chance there, but you're definitely you're definitely timed out for that inappropriate remark right there. Now, of course, Maltops, if I wanted to, I could just say that that's projection, right? Because no one in their right mind would do what you said I might be doing. But for you to even think it suggests you might have done it. You certainly thought of it, Maltops. What's going on there? I knew you were nuts. I knew you had problems, but I didn't think you were, what's the word? Grotesque. So, we'll let you just figure things out for a while and come back if you think you can manage yourself like an adult, okay? If you can't, don't participate because then we'll have to treat you like a child and ban you, put you in timeout again, okay? Anyway. Oh, Malta, he's been here before. Again, it's been kind of an up and down thing with him. So either way, we've been talking about maybe Maltops is part of the LGBTQ plus group. I don't know. And maybe that's kind of part of his lifestyle. Maltops, that is not good for you. Okay, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about abuse and the damage that LGBTQ plus people are doing, and the fact that we all know, right? It's not like a big secret. The problem, though, homos, lesbos, T people, and others, is that you have made discussing the consequences of your lifestyles almost impossible, right? Unless you just do it like I am now. You certainly don't ever discuss it on your own, right? You guys never talk about this stuff and try to help each other and say, look, when your rear end is been ripped open this many times and you need to have a healing period and here's what you do, right? Right? We don't ever hear any kind of really and even that, right, you're really just dealing with an ongoing issue, but we don't even really hear any productive, helpful discussion, right? I have to bring it up and point it out to everybody, even though we all know it's just it's become so taboo to bring up the obvious. So, right, we have to deal with people, the T's in the LGBTQ plus acronym, who are clearly, in my opinion, mentally ill, right? Right. And that's, look, if you need mental help, then that's fine. Then we get you mental help. That is not the end of the world. That doesn't mean you are a bad person. It means you have a mental problem and you need help with it. I am sorry if you don't like that. That's just the way it is based on what you're doing and the choices you're making. Okay? Science has shown that up until just recently when you guys went nuts and tried to change things. But the fact is, you guys are abusing yourselves left and right, right? You guys are doing things that are clearly not only destructive to yourselves, but to society. There's no real benefit from LGBTQ plus non-hetero relationships. None at all. I'm not talking about things you can get like combined income money, right? That you can get elsewhere without the abuse. Yeah, sure, you make more money. You'll have more friends. They're all abused. You're all abused and abusive. You're involved in a lifestyle that requires, and you know it. If you don't, I'll show it. And you still won't accept it. So who's got the problem then? It sounds like you LGBTQ plus people hate science. You hate the facts. And yet you otherwise act like you rely on them when it comes to stuff like atheism and evolution, non-intelligent evolution, right? So what is it? You can't have a normal discussion with you guys because you're not normal. And yet we do try. I always treat LGBTQ plus people like normal people. I don't treat them any differently. That doesn't mean I'm going to get close to you or trust you with certain things that non-abused and abusive people should be trusted with, right? There are some issues with your lifestyles that we're free to be concerned about. And if you don't like that, again, you seem to hate science. You seem to hate the facts that we're using to point out why we don't do what you want us to do. And then when we're like, okay, if you want to do it, go ahead. We're not interested and we don't want you pushing that abuse on our kids. You freak out. You act like you have this right to present all this abusive stuff. We've got idiots like Maltops who somehow feels comfortable asking one of the dumbest questions of all time. That to me seems like a projection, Maltops. Why else would someone even think of that, right? Well, if you're involved in an abusive lifestyle, these kind of things come up, right? Miro! Good to see you, Miro. You missed some of the excitement in the chat. Well, not really, right? We just had a dumb question. It was kind of unexpected, but I find it more humorous. Although I was the object of the dumb question. You see, homos and other LGBTQ plus non-hetero people, we have to laugh at ourselves sometimes. Don't take things so seriously. Right? If you don't want someone telling you the truth, then just do what I did, right? You don't have to, I don't come to your channel and just start going crazy. And if I did and you didn't want to hear it, well, then just put me in timeout or ban me. I understand. But don't lie to people if that's the case. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to hear it, well, we don't want you lying to people. You can lie to yourself if you want, right? It's dumb. Do you not want to know what's happening, or do you? Okay. Well, you're killing yourself faster than most people if you're involved in a non-hetero relationship. That's obvious. No one disputes that, and if you do, I'd like to know, because I will show you the info and see what you dispute. Right? Show me your. I don't want to. Right? We know what happens, okay? We know what you guys are doing, and we know the damage. It's bad. Really messed up stuff, like anal cancer rates through the roof, relationship trauma and breakdown all-time high, drug use, suicide rates, loss of life, loss of contribution to society. And something I really haven't gotten to yet, because I understand a lot of you LGBTQ plus people aren't religious. Some of you are. And like I said in the example I gave earlier, if you are any of those, if you're a non-hetero and you struggle or live with LGBTQ plus lifestyle desires, and you can't fully, you're not required to be perfect. You are not required to always feel hetero. You are not required to always win out. You are required as a Christian to try, to rely on God, to resist the wicked one, to resist your desires if they're bad, if they don't help you, if they hurt you, if they hurt other people. That's not what a Christian does. You know that. But yes, you can be a sinner. You can be anything but a blasphemer of the Holy Spirit. Right? So unless you're Sam Shamoon, you're probably okay. Although even I hold out hope for Sam, as most of you know. We all do. Although, you know. So, but you homos and LGBTQ plus people, non-hetero, we're not asking you to stop being who you are. I'm not. I am asking you to stop lying, okay? I don't lie. I try not to. And I can apologize and confess if I have to. Can you stop lying, please? And admit that your lifestyles are as science shows. Very damaging. But you are allowed to do it. You are permitted to exist in those relationships as members of society and be treated with respect. Whether we're at work, whether we're at the grocery store, or whether we're just talking. But that doesn't mean that I can't express my views about the things that I disagree with involved with what you're doing. Why I don't do it. Why I think you shouldn't do it. Why I don't want our kids to do it. Again, if that's who they are and then they have to live with who they are and try to minimize the damage, right? These are destructive desires. LGBTQ plus people. If they're your desires, then that's just who you are. I understand. You know, that doesn't mean you have to give in every time. I desire heterosex. I don't go running around giving in even close to all the time, right? So what are you talking about? Where are you coming up with this overriding desire and just... Oh, you were Corona. I don't want to say too much, right? Because again, the YouTube stuff. But I see your chat comments, Miro. Right. So, you know, but as I was saying, LGBTQ plus people, it's time to stop the line, right? And stop misrepresenting this constant abusive promotion of abuse. And it's abusive, right? The rate you're doing it based on the number of people that actually identify the way you're you're projecting onto society. It's terrible. It's not appropriate, and it's not good for you. It's one thing if you want to do it. It's one thing if you want to live that way. Again, yes, then we should accept it and allow you to live the way you want to if it's legal and you're practicing what you want. That should never mean that we have to lie to make you feel better about it. It just means that you're going to do your best to make us feel better about your bad choices because you know they're wrong. And you know we know they're wrong. And instead of lying to yourselves and lying to us, you're going to do what you want as long as it's legal, no matter what. Why can't you just do that? That's what we do. I have to take all your abuse about being a Christian and, oh, you LGBTQ plus people know that you abuse Christians all the time. The way you talk, the way you mock. And this is what I was going to get to earlier that I haven't done to this point yet. But speaking of mock, you guys mock our God every single time you sodomize each other. Or you two lesbos scissor. Or use artificial wangs. Yeah, that's not good. You may like it for a while because you eventually you're going to have to go to sleep with that fake wang. And guess what? It doesn't have arms and legs and a heart that beats blood. You're just abusing yourselves and calling it love. That's another lie. Why? Why are you lying to yourselves about love? To feel better about abuse? Okay. Again, you can only lie to yourselves until the end. And then, what a terrible end. When you could just enjoy life the right way, and by right I mean normal, I mean healthy, I mean the right way. Like it goes there, right? Like this is how you do it. And it doesn't damage you. You don't have to call a proctologist after you're through. Or go to the doctor for lice. Or get hormones. You're just a normal person who's living a healthy life. And even if you feel like doing something bad for you, you're going to try to resist it because it's bad for you. Why would you want to hurt yourself? Well, sometimes we just do. But once we realize it's going to be bad over time, we can develop a resistance, even if we fail here and there, and just continue to try to get better. Same thing with anything else. You can develop a desire for anything. And you can also stop. And if you can't stop lying about it, okay? Whoa. This lying is like the worst part of all this. I mean, worse than the sodomy, right? Because if that's just what you want to do, well, okay. Then I'll leave you alone. And maybe when we're working or when we're somewhere together where you're not involved in something like that, then it won't be an issue. But if you're lying, it's always an issue. Always LGBTQ plus people. So Christian Witnesses of Jah, everybody, I wanted to make this discussion. And I realized earlier there was a little bit of a double play. I had another tab open. You might have heard a little sound. And I may or may not keep it. I haven't heard it yet. But I apologize. Either way, we do these shows. And they're for the purpose of us coming together to talk about primarily things that involve our group. How we can better promote belief in Jah, the one God of the Bible, the Father. Accepting and honoring and following the Messiah, his son, the firstborn, Jesus. and treating each other the way we want to be treated, the golden rule, so that we can build a better family, a better community, a better society, a better world. Right? Even though it's not going to be the way we want it to be until the new world, that's no excuse not to try to make it as good as we can now. And that's another thing, right? LGBTQ plus people, you're not doing that. You're putting yourselves ahead. You're putting your desire ahead of everybody else. And this is why you guys come together, the LGBTQ plus non-heteros, against heteros. Because you feel better because you're all doing the same thing. You're all living a lifestyle that is more damaging and destructive, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's all documented. We know it. You don't believe me. You want to argue with me. You want to debate. We can talk. We'll do it. But this is pretty readily available stuff, and we all have all these body parts. We know what happens. So, but what is so difficult, and why I'm concerned for my fellow Christians, and why I want us to think and talk more about this, and why I want you LGBTQ plus people to think about, hey, either you guys try to make things a little bit more normal, or you're just going to make it worse, right? You can be non-normal. You can be non-hetero. Hetero is normal. That's healthy. You're non-normal. You're choosing that, and we accept that, and we treat you with respect, but we're not going to lie. No. We know you want that so you feel better, and we're not doing that. We're not here to make you feel better if we have to lie. Right? That's just like with other groups and other people. Right? It's like, I want to bring up the Watchtower, and I'll guess I will. Right? You could believe in the same God. Same three things I mentioned a moment ago. Same God, same Messiah, same golden rule. You don't agree with the governing body? You don't believe that the majority of people today are of the great crowd and shouldn't partake? Something that Rutherford brought up in the 1930s based on their understanding of chronology that led him to believe that the end would come, the resurrection in 1925, and that the ancient worthies would be resurrected and live in a mansion in San Diego. That's the guy. You're following his teaching about the great crowd from the 1930s? No, I don't accept that. That's clearly not the case, and they've been wrong a long time in many ways, and they're just saying that to keep themselves in power. No, I don't believe it. You're an apostate, right? None of the other stuff matters. Only thing that matters is that doctrine. Same with Trinitarians, right? Same with homos, LGBTQ plus people. They don't care. Do you agree with them or not? Right? Are they you can't right now, at least in many ways and places and forms, you can't talk about it like we are. That's why I do it. I know it sounds harsh. I know I'm not, but if I don't do it, then I tell myself, okay, but if I don't do it, then they're going to win, right? That's the game they're playing. They know we have a hard time talking about the more intimate details of their abuse, of their lifestyle. The parts that are like damaging to everybody. They know it's hard to talk about. Sex, especially with them, is just a difficult subject. Well, I'll do it. I'm not doing it for sure. I'm doing it because if we don't do it, everybody, they're going to keep influencing people and damaging them. And look at what they're doing to the schools. And yes, you are LGBTQ plus people, non-hetero. You are ruining the public schools. I mean, I'm in a pretty conservative area. You guys have totally destroyed it. Total destruction. It's all just this woke LGBTQ plus, Black Lives Matter, racist stuff. It's all racism and grifting. Right? They're the ones promoting the most racially divisive messages and misinformation. And it's infected the schools. If you have the ability, everybody, take your kids to private school. Get them out. unless you're in an area where you're really sure that they're protected. But in California, you better go to a private school, if at all possible, or you're going to really have to pay attention because it's out of control. They have filled almost every position with an LGBTQ plus person, non-hetero. A few token hetero, not a few token heteros that they know will play ball, right? And then they just promote each other from within, and they go through this whole process of just changing the whole dynamic, the whole makeup of our educational system. So this is no small deal. There's a reason I picked this as the theme for this discussion. We're going to get to a couple texts here in a minute about complaining. That was the other thing I wanted to talk about. And then we're going to partake, okay? But I really wanted to talk about this LGBTQ plus thing and how we do, right? I don't have any doubt that all of you are respectful at work, at social gatherings, in public, right? I couldn't imagine you were all believing in the three things and you're out here like mistreating LGBTQ plus people. Resisting their promotion of an abusive message, that's fine, right? That's not mistreating them. They think that is, right? Because it's like, again, that's the dilemma, right? That's the problem we have. They're either lying to themselves and or to other people about what we're doing, and we're just presenting information to help explain why we don't do it and why it shouldn't be promoted the way it is. Way out of balance, and they're doing things now that will likely lead to pedophilia and other obviously damaging. Oh, it's always damaging and destructive, right? On an emotional, mental, and physical level. And that's how you can show, right? When it comes to the way God made us, or even if you don't believe in God, LGBTQ plus non-hetero people, then how we evolved, right? Hetero is clearly the best relationship option and lifestyle. It doesn't involve any damage when practiced normally, and it produces healthy families and society. It's like everything good about it, and none of it in these other lifestyles. It's all just desire and basically just a inferior replication on some level of a normal hetero act, right? It's not like the real thing. None of it is. It's a simulation in that sense. It's like it, but it's not as good. It involves a lot more damage. So why would you do it? Why would you promote it, even if you did it, right? Why would you think that's something everybody should do? But just because you do and you want people to do it because misery loves company, well, then you're a bad person, right? You're someone we shouldn't be listening to if that's the way. If you like it, you want to do it, go for it. And other people want to do it with you, hey, you're adults, it's legal, that's this, you get that option. That doesn't mean you're allowed to lie to people and pretend like it's something it's not. Just be honest with yourself and others. We won't judge you beyond recognizing you desire abuse on some level. We all have problems. Yours is that. And you're dealing with it. You're doing what you can. Okay, great. You're LGBTQ plus non-hetero. You have issues and desires that are not normal, but you're otherwise functional and not a problem or threat. Okay? Well, if you start lying, that changes all that, right? Now you're a threat. You're a liar. We can't trust you. So, LGBTQ plus people at this point, non-hetero, I just want you to please stop lying. And if you don't want to, well, I don't care either. And I'm not going to just pretend like you're not. I'm going to continue to do the things that I know are correct. I'm going to continue to say the things I know are correct. I'm going to continue to make myself available to talk to people who think I'm incorrect. But if you don't have any facts or information and you're just here to express your feelings or say something retarded and dumb like mall tops, well, we don't care about that. We're just going to laugh at you and you're just wasting your time. Do you really think you're convincing us like we care? You want to convince us? Well, why don't you explain yourself? You want to just admit that you desire abuse and things that you know are wrong, but you do it anyway? You don't have to explain. We get it. We make mistakes too, and we desire things that are wrong too, and we're working on it too. But we're not lying like you. We're not out there promoting our mistakes for the whole world to do. We're not out here infiltrating the schools and lying to our kids about what's healthy and normal. You are. So I wanted to make sure that the people that I'm trying to promote the truth with understand more of what I think about it, how I plan to continue to approach it, what I have to say about it, and what I've offered to you LGBTQ non-hetero people. But I really don't ever have anybody willing to talk about it based on facts and science. And again, if any of you LGBTQ plus people want to just admit you have this desire, but you still believe in the Christ and you want to be a part of our fellowship, that's no problem. You can be LGBTQ as long as you don't lie about it and pretend it's something it's not. And you're actively trying not to do it, right? You may do it at times, you may make mistakes at times, like we all do. Yeah, but we're not, when we make mistakes, LGBTQ non-hetero people, we don't then like just continue to try to do them. If we realize, like, let's say someone has a gambling problem and they just kind of relapse and start gambling again, then they stop and like, oh, I gotta stop that. I don't want to have any money. All right, see, are you doing that? Oh, okay. Well, if you're doing that, then you're okay. That's all about everyone. You're just LGBTQ plus non-hetero. Other people are gamblers. Other people have problem with other forms of abuse. So the difference is, while we have problems like you or desires that are not good for us, we're not actively promoting those desires that are not good for us as something for other people to do, like you are. We're also not lying to ourselves and telling ourselves that the things that we do wrong at times aren't wrong. We don't tell ourselves that. We feel bad until we don't do it for a while again. And then hopefully we'd stay not doing it. But if we relapse and do it again, well, we feel bad until we feel bad long enough and then we feel better. We don't start pretending it was good the whole time. Right? That would then just lead to more of the bad by lying. Which is why you guys sometimes have a problem stopping. But once you come to the realization that it's not necessarily about stopping, none of us can totally stop. It's about not lying about when you can't stop and what it involves. And being honest with yourself and either accepting that it's what you like to do, consequences and all, or it's not what you want to do. You're struggling with it, and you're going to keep doing your best. And that's about all. Either one of those are fine. Lying to everybody and yourself is not. Okay? That has to stop. Or if it doesn't, well, we don't have to follow you. We don't have to comply with you lying. We'll just keep telling the truth and keep pointing out to people, no, they're just lying again, and we've tried to tell them, and they talk about science when they want it, but then when we try to tell them about it and what they're doing and the lifestyle they're promoting, they're like, huh? Science? No. Right? So it's just beyond the point where I'm comfortable that you LGBTQ plus non-hetero people are able to do this on your own. I think we heteros, we pure heteros, uh, non-sodomizing heteros, we need to step in and motivate you by pointing out all the lying and abuse. Now, you guys don't like the abuse part. That's obvious. You guys really are sensitive about that, even though it's happening. But the lying part, I think we need to really drive home with you, because that involves trust. And it's not a problem if you want to be LGBTQ plus, like I've said repeatedly, in terms of whether or not we treat you with respect and accept you as normal members of society. The lying is getting in the way of that. And it's affecting people in ways that you are now responsible for, beyond just being allowed to do your thing. Now, we're way beyond that, right? We're now in the territory of you recklessly allowing the promotion of abuse and mocking our God at the same time, right? That's one thing, right? If you just disagree, you don't believe in God, okay. Well, you're still mocking our God to us, right? Because he made your anus to excrete toxic human waste with a very thin cell wall and muscles that only go out, not in, like the vagina. You know, this basic anatomy stuff, you could find it anywhere. Online, in book, at school. You could look at yourself, right? Most of you could. And so it's like right there, and you still deny it, right? So the problem is definitely you. Now, we can all do better in trying to deal with the way you guys have become and your message and the way you lie about love, right? You call this all love. Where's the love? What are you talking about? Just because you ejaculate in someone's anus? That's not love. It may feel good, but it's damaging that person and probably you, unless you had a condom that didn't break. And then you might not damage them as much, but you would with the repeated action of the hardened male penis, right? Because that would then tear open the anal walls. It would be blood and fecal matter, and again, condoms break, and you don't use them all the time. Not everyone does, and so we all know what's happening there. And this all produces immunosuppression, disease, nonstop problems, infections, regular tearing. So unless you're going to start telling people what LGBTQ plus lifestyles come with, why don't you dial down the over promotion that you're doing? And as I have suggested before, I recommend we adopt some kind of moderation system, whether it's for movies, television shows, post, anything with LGBTQ plus in it should come with a warning, like with cigarettes. This product contains LGBTQ plus representation, which has been shown by science to be damaging to all parties involved and to society, but it is still legal. Therefore, it's being promoted, and here's your warning, right? Something like that. That's what should happen. But if you don't want to do that, can you at least stop the lying, okay? Yeah, maybe a warning labeled everything is a little too much to ask from you guys right now. You guys, girls, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It's not gender specific. Just stop the lying. And if you can't stop the lying, well, now you know we don't care either. And we're telling the truth. So we'll win every time. So you keep lying, we'll keep telling the truth, and we'll see who gets where, okay? Or you could just stop lying, be exactly as you are, and we'd feel a lot better about you. The only difference is you not lying. So, do you want us to treat you better? Okay, well, stop lying then. That's the easiest way. You want to be treated better by heteros? Stop lying about what you're doing. Stop lying about what's involved in your relationships. Guarantee it. Your relationship quality with us will like skyrocket. I promise. Okay? All right, that's enough about the homo stuff, but it's become a big issue and it's everywhere at this point. And so there's really no reason for it other than the over promotion of people's desires in ways that, because people really aren't like them, they feel insecure about. And so, again, over promotion for no reason. And there's every reason not to promote it. So there's obviously a reason. And that is their own insecurities and inability to actually process the information about the different lifestyles involved and present them accordingly. Like we did, right? Miro made a comment and it was held, but I let it go. It says, "My boss is lesbian. No respect to anyone. No way." Right? And I'm sure there are some nice lesbians. Have I ever met? It's not like I've met a ton of lesbians, but the fastest ending relationship on record, as far as I know, and I've checked the stats as recently as last year. So, you know, that just doesn't seem like that would really work. At some point, right, one of them is going to want something the other one can't provide because they don't have what a real man has. And at that point, it's over, right? Once you can't give a woman what she wants and she realizes it's never going to happen, it's probably over. All right. So, yeah, where is Betsy? She was here, Miro. Right. And you women, you should be very satisfied with all men, right? Men, we're here to complement each other with women in ways that Jah made us. And if you're a Christian woman, you might want to make sure you're checking yourself, right? We're having a shortage of you too out there. And I realize we have a man problem. We have a LGBT, we have problems. We also have a woman problem. A lot of you are very easily misled. That's been happening since the beginning. We are too, usually because of you. But we also seem to have a problem with being able to filter out a lot of this stuff, right? For example, women, not necessarily Christian women, but I know there were a lot of women who, when I was more regular with the Watchtower in the 90s, they would watch Oprah during the day. And even when I would like stop by their house and we would stop by, I remember seeing like Oprah on several times, right? And really, the stay at home moms and single moms, but well, probably really the stay at home moms really built Oprah, right? Watched her show, bought all her recommended products, and built her up. And really, she's a catastrophe. She's catastrophic. She's involved in that whole Hollywood just catastrophic scene. And as you know, Oprah is Harpo spelled backwards. And who's Harpo? Harpo was the silent one. What kind of secrets is she keeping? There's a lot of suspicion about what she's doing in terms of child trafficking and things, but can't prove it. So either way, she's in a very seedy environment, right? You never hear her talking. Do you ever hear Oprah talking about child abuse, pedophilia, homo stuff? No. It's because she's swimming in it, in my opinion. So, yeah. So a lot of women were misled by Oprah and her show and her platform and her just really anti-Christian ideas and thinking. But they were susceptible, right? It just seemed like no one could see what she was really about or cared. Maybe a lot of people really just don't care as much as we think they do. But we seem to have a lot of women who are easily influenced by the wrong people. I see a lot of women influenced by homosexuals, for example. Why? Why would you ever take relationship advice from a homosexual unless they are a accepted professional in the field of whatever it is you need help with, because their learning and practice would give them that insight. Even if they have a homosexual desire, probably you could still rely on a professional who's capable of separating their desire from fact. But otherwise, why would you ever let a homosexual tell you what to do in a relationship? They're like the worst at it, right? LGBTQ plus non-heteros are number one. All of them. I mean, they may be different in among themselves, but together, they're the worst. They are by definition incapable or unwilling to cultivate a normal hetero relationship. So if they're incapable or unwilling in their own life to do it, and unless they are a documented professional who you believe is capable of separating their desire from what they know, why would we listen to them? They don't demonstrate by their life, right? What are we told as Christian? By their fruits you'll know them. Not what they say, what they do. What do you do? Okay, well, your life is an example of abuse. Your life literally displays abuse. And you want to tell me about what? Is that based on your life? Or is that based on what you've learned is best for people no matter what you desire? Right? Which one is it? Because otherwise, I can't for the life of me figure out why we would ever take advice about relationships from people who demonstrate that's the last thing they're capable of properly doing, right? It'd be like going to them and talking to them about how to worship God, right? Unless they're a Christian and just struggles with it. They don't care about that. What are you asking them that for? They're not living a life that would show that's what they're able to tell you. So that's another lie, right? They've got all these people out here, all these LGBTQ plus people out here acting like they're normal. No, you're not normal. Normal means healthy. But we were going to look that up. Let me do that real quick. I had done that, and then I saw you guys. We're going to get to the bread and wine in a minute here. I saw you guys telling me about the video playing right there. So let's go to this definition over here. I had brought this up, but then let me see. I want to be able to do this right. So I'll put that here. I'll make this a little bigger. All right. So I had looked up the word normal, which we've been talking about a lot tonight in regards to the whole LGBTQ plus non-hetero promotion of themselves as like just normal, right? And what's the problem? What is this like any other relationship? No, it's not. Not even close. So normal. Conforming to a standard, right? This is Google. I understand there are more definitions. We're just looking at the basic definition. Conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected. It's quite normal for puppies to, what does it say? To bolt their food. I'm not sure what that means, but bolt? It's quite normal for puppies to bolt their food. Maybe that's an expression. Well, let's just say that that's true, right? Let's just say that that's what it's giving it as an example, is the normal way puppies act with their food, that the use of bolt there. I'm just not familiar with it. Well, okay, so Would it be proper to say it's quite normal for your rear end to be ripped open and bleeding after regular sex, after healthy sex? Is it normal for your rear end to be open and bleeding after sex? By rear end, I mean your anus, right? I'm not talking about positionally with the vagina and stuff. Just for you people who are interested. But so would that, no, it wouldn't, right? That's not an expected outcome. That's not what we're expecting, right? Usual, typical, expected. If you are expecting your rear end to be ripped open and bleeding after sex, and that you have been immunosuppressed, well, your expectations are different than most people. Not normal. Let's go down here. The usual, average, or typical state or condition. That is us, everybody. We are this. We are normal. We heteros are normal. You homos are not. You lesbos are not. You tea that rhymes with grannies are not. You bis are not. We are. We're the ones who are living the way we're designed or have evolved. You are not. That's not disputed, really, not credibly. You often say you're normal, but you're not, and you never prove it, and you never answer our evidence showing you're not. Mental, emotional, physical. So why are we ever having to deal with issues involving LGBTQ+? Because the world is not normal, right? We have a lot of problems in the world, even though obviously it's ruled over by the Son. It's during the time which he is selecting people to rule with him and to bring about a new heavens and a new earth, fulfill God's will. So we have to deal with the conditions of a fallen earth that is being brought to its finish. And it says it's going to get worse and worse. That the devil has been down here with great anger. So we're going to be facing issues and conditions that don't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's not logical. It's not based on facts. It's just people's desires in spite of the facts. And then forcing us to deal with them instead of them being forced to deal with the facts that show what they're doing is abuse. It's not love, and they're lying to themselves and to everybody else. Now, as you deal with that, wherever you have to deal with it, again, be respectful, treat everybody the same. If you find out they're LGBTQ plus, non-hetero, then just do whatever you have to do to exist with them in a peaceful manner. Do not support or adopt or promote their lifestyles. Just be nice, accept that they are who they are, accept that they don't like who you are, but they seem to be treating you the way you want to be treated. So, do not in any way sanction abuse. If your company or social function wants to promote abusive lifestyles, you don't have control over that. Right? If you want to take your own private stance in some way, that's up to you. You're not expected to answer for everybody else. They want to do that. That's just a condition you have to deal with. There are people who are just too cowardly to try to help people they claim to care about by telling them the truth. Instead, they keep the lie going so they don't have to deal with the consequences of insecure people who are afraid of the facts about what they're doing, what's actually happening, not just people's opinions about it. It's objective, scientific facts. All right, let's start to wrap this up here. Let's just go to a text. So I wanted to bring this up real quickly. Because even though I wanted to focus primarily on the LGBTQ plus stuff tonight, remember I will be doing open session 26 tomorrow, where we'll talk about whatever you want. It won't be as specific to the Christian Witnesses of Jah community and how to deal with things, although that can come up, but it's be more broad in its potential. This is specific though. I wanted to make a special show as part of our live discussions where we really talked about this so that you understand at least where I'm coming from and why, and hopefully to help you better prepare yourself for some of these more difficult aspects of society right now and these LGBTQ plus issues in people. They're everywhere. So it's very important that you understand how you're going to deal with them, how to be respectful, how to not compromise, how to point out things that just are not true, but if that's what they want to believe or do, fine. That's not how you see it. And you're okay with them disagreeing, but you're not going to compromise when the facts are on your side. If anyone wants to talk about the facts, great. If not, hey, let's get back to life. We're not here to force our views on other people. They don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not here to force people to do what I do. You're either interested or you're not. I'm looking for the people who are. Hey, Dada. There's Dada. Dada and Crazy Rabbits. You can see Dada's tail. Come on, Dada. Come on. Good boy. Good boy, Dada. Good boy. Good boy. Dada. He just ran out the door. I was going to grab him and he took off. There's Crazy Rabbits up there. You can see her, right? So let's just do a quick scripture and then we're going to do our bread and wine, okay? Let's go to the Bible Hub in Jude. Go ahead and bring you guys up. We're just going to look at this text in Jude, and then we're going to do our bread and wine. Okay, everybody? I'll be back tomorrow morning for another open session. Let's go ahead and go to Jude. It's 119, right? 116. Hello, Dada. Little Dada. I don't know if you guys can hear him. In the NWT, excuse me, Jude 1:16, it says, these men are murmurers, complainers about their lot in life, proceeding according to their own desires, and their mouths speak swelling things, while they are admiring personalities for the sake of their own benefit. Let's take a look at how this is rendered in some other translations. Jude 1:16 NIV, these people are grumblers and fault finders. They follow their own evil desires. They boast about themselves and flatter others for their own advantage. Excuse me. Take a little drink there. I get a little dry sometimes. Let's see. English Standard Version. These are grumblers, malcontents, following their own sinful desires. They are loud-mouthed boasters, showing favoritism to gain advantage. King James, these are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lusts, and their mouth speaketh great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage. The last one we'll read, New American Standard. These are grumblers, finding fault, following after their own lusts. Remember that scene? I don't know if every one of you has seen this movie or not, but it was a somewhat popular movie in the 1980s. I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have heard of it, called The Predator. And if I'm talking about the first one, and there's a scene involving Arnold Schwarzenegger. And here it is. There's a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's a military group, if you haven't seen the movie. It's called Predator. There's another movie called The Predator, but it's later. The original movie, Predator, 1987. It's got a couple gory scenes in it, but they're all in the context of an alien being basically having set up shop in a jungle, during which an elite military team is operating, and it starts to hunt them. And the military team that just ended up wiping out this one other military group, as they're leaving to try to catch their transport, they start to realize that this predator is hunting them, that there's something else they have to deal with. And it's like a real problem. They got to stop, right? They're like trying to get back to the helicopter to get out of here. But the problem has become so difficult, that the issue that they're facing, this alien hunter, that they can't keep going. Right? They have to stop and deal with it right now. But there's one in their group. I think his name in real life is Carl Williams. He's the guy who played the original Apollo Creed and the original Rocky movies. Let me bring up the screen here. So here you can see Arnold Schwarzenegger right here. And this is the, I think it's Carl Williams, I believe, or someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But this is the guy who's complaining. And Arnold is like the leader of this military unit. And he realizes how much danger they're in. And so he's like listening to this guy complain about things in the context of having to deal with this problem. So let's see if this plays what I want here.
Instead of complaining, maybe I should help. Instead of complaining, maybe I should help.
One more time.
Instead of complaining, maybe I should help.
So when we look at that and we go back, did I leave the Bible Hub already? Well, we'll just bring up Jude then. So when you consider that, right, instead of complaining, maybe you should help. When you read Jude basically saying the same thing, right? Got these people, we're trying to help people understand what's happening biblically with the Messiah and the Jews. And we've got the Romans and the Jews and Greeks and others that we're trying to deal with while we're just growing out of this period of time when so much has happened, and yet we've got these people who are constantly complaining, murmuring, right? We're dealing with a serious issue here, right? And instead of helping us with this issue or helping us with this important purpose, we've got to stop what we're doing and listen to your complaints about what? What's so important that it trumps this issue? You know, one time I was telling my son, it's kind of like, let's say you were on um, a ship, a partially incapacitated vessel, right? Like a small boat that's floating but not doesn't really have its sail properly set up, and so it's kind of just floating, waiting for rescue. You're in the boat with someone else. You're both like stranded, waiting for rescue. And while you're in the boat, sharks are swimming around the boat. Right? And you're not in a big boat. Right? You're in a big enough boat, but it's like very, be very concerning. And, sharks obviously, the size can be very threatening. It would be like you're in that boat with another person, surrounded by sharks and not able to navigate or move out of there. You're just waiting to be rescued. It's like you're in that position, and then the person you're with says, I wonder who's winning the football game. Like, I wonder who's winning the Super Bowl. I wonder who's winning the Dodgers and Angels, or Dodgers and Giants. Right? And they're not joking. Right? I understand maybe you're with someone and they're trying to lighten the mood because it's like, this is pretty serious, right? That's not what I'm talking about. Could you imagine someone in that situation that I described seriously asking you, like they're really serious? Hey, what do you know if Pittsburgh won that game? Uh hey man, let's just deal with the present situation, okay? Instead of, that's not necessarily a complaint. Let's try to make that scenario more fitting to our predator clip and text, right? Complaining. That's an example I've actually told my son when it came to someone who's totally detached from a situation. And I'm like, look, man, sometimes you're with people and you could be surrounded by sharks and adrift waiting for rescue, and they'll ask you what's the score in a game. Right? It doesn't make any sense. They're detached. They're not in the situation with you. Why? I don't know. Let's make this in our illustration a little bit better, right? So let's just say, you're in the same situation, but let's say the person says, I can't believe it. It's so hot. And it's not like heat is a good thing, but you've got your shirts and you can put them over your face so you can protect from sunburn and all that. It's hot. You're surrounded by sharks that float, waiting for rescue, and the person complains it's hot. Probably not the most important thing, right? Or maybe they complain they haven't brushed their teeth all day. Probably that's a better one, right? Because even hot, I don't know. I wouldn't be complaining about temperature if I'm surrounded by sharks. Well, let's make it even more. Just doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't fit the context. They start complaining they haven't brushed their teeth all day. Yeah, brushing teeth is important. We're surrounded by sharks right now. Can we deal with that first? Can we get rescued first and then we'll talk about brushing your teeth? Okay. So, you know, it's important for us, especially, right, as Christian witnesses of Jah, people who are trying to build a community of people that we can trust, right? that we believe have the right priorities, that we believe are at least pointed in the right direction and facing the right beliefs without all this tradition, all this speculation about chronology and stuff leading the way. It's important for us to be able to deal with some of the more difficult social issues that we're facing so that we can take them in stride, deal with them as we have to, and not get sidelined or blindsided by something that to us doesn't seem like it should even be an issue. It's obvious. But it is an issue, even though it's obvious. So we're just going to have to be more prepared, and we can be. It's not that hard to deal with. We don't all have to be as expressive in how we deal with it. Just deal with it how it has to be dealt with to address the situation at hand. What is actually happening? What do you need to do to deal with what's actually happening? Oh, someone thinks that you don't like them because of their lifestyle? Well, tell them that that's not true. You think they're a very nice person if you do, or they have other good qualities. You just don't think their lifestyle is healthy. It's not good for you. And you do things that you think are good for you. And while you think they may be a nice person, you do believe they're doing something that is pretty obvious is not good for you. But that's about it. Right? Sometimes we all do that. So it's really not anything for that person to be overly worried about, right? They're just projecting their own inability, usually, to rationalize differences with others onto you. So maybe you just need to show some of the LGBTQ plus people that that's not how you are, right? You understand sometimes people have a more aggressively dislikable view towards a person because of their lifestyle, but you just don't believe in the lifestyle. And you do think it is damaging and bad for you and not healthy. But it doesn't mean you can't work with them, don't like them as a person overall, or are going to try to do something bad to them, right? That's how they often are presented, and it's just ridiculous. So it's a complicated situation, but one that I think as Christians we can be better equipped to deal with. Talking about like this helps, I think. It helps us to become more familiar with an uncomfortable issue. And that's part of the problem, right? They've made it an uncomfortable issue, and it just is. It's a subject that's sometimes difficult. Sex, relationships, and some of the more unpleasant side effects of LGBTQ plus relationships. So, yeah, it has challenges. But if we don't meet them on some level, then the challenges are going to wipe out a lot of progress and damage people unnecessarily. And we don't need to do that. We don't need to let that happen. The LGBTQ plus people, non-hetero, seem to be okay with letting that happen. We don't have to do that. We can point out what is true objectively. And if people don't like it, just say, well, that's the facts. I'm sorry you don't like it. I realize it may not sound pleasant. It's actually science. It's actually the truth. That's not good for you. Do you care or not? You do? Okay. You don't? Fine. But stop telling me something is not bad for you when it is, okay? That's lying. And unless you're someone like Maltops, who's too dumb to realize that a retarded question shouldn't be asked, then you really have no excuse, do you? So let's just try to be more honest with everybody, and let's try to get them to be more honest with themselves and everybody too. And if they don't want to, fine. Then we'll just limit our relationship with you to the extent that we have to. I'm not going to associate with liars, okay? You do whatever you want. Once I find out you're unable to absorb the truth or at least accept things that are objectively true, like I can show you, it's just not my opinion, I can't trust you fully, okay? It's like with Watchtower or anybody else. Homos, LGBTQ, they're all the same in one respect. they won't face the truth about what they're doing. Watchtower won't face the truth about ongoingly promoting false chronology. Right in the face of the Son of God and his earliest followers that tell us not to do that. They can't stop. They won't stop. LGBTQ plus people continue to throw their abuse in our face, even though the science tells them it's not love. So we're dealing with a lot of difficult issues and people. It's not just Trinitarians, right? I mean, I'd rather deal with the others, LGBTQ plus, atheists. The Trinitarians is just over. Let's just do that occasionally because the issues keep coming up and there's new ones all the time, right? But in terms of importance, in terms of impact, LGBTQ plus lifestyles and relationships are destroying people's lives. They're destroying young kids' lives. Yeah, a lot of people might grow up believing false doctrine, but at least they have a fully functional rear end. At least they're not destroying their physical, emotional, and mental stability. Yeah, so they believe in the Trinity. We'll deal with it. And it's a lot easier than trying to get them to totally change their lifestyle from an abuse-oriented one to false doctrine. All right, let's try to move them from abuse to false doctrine if we have to, right? Even though that's not preferred, right? And maybe, at least I'm just kidding a little bit. But you know what I'm saying, right? We're getting a lot more damage and influence from LGBTQ plus today than Trinitarians, right? They're on the wane. LGBTQ plus people have risen up high. And they need to step down now, right? They need to get out of the clouds a little bit and start dealing with some reality, like the kind we've been dealing out to the Trinitarians. So we need to change our focus a little, probably, depending on where you are, just so this doesn't overwhelm your community, your family, and stifle your ability to properly represent the Christ, right? And the teaching of God's word, male and female, right? They're making it hard on us to do the basic stuff, to have even just normal gender division, to have normal relationships, to promote normal hetero rather than abnormal, non-healthy LGBTQ plus non-hetero. So there's a lot going on here that is serious in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of you already know, but I wanted to reemphasize again that as a community of Christians, we need to do everything we can to interact with the LGBTQ plus community respectfully, but not compromising the truth, not lying. If they want to do that, fine. We don't need to talk about it if they're going to lie. You want to be honest, you want to have an honest discussion, hey, no problem. You want to lie? Problem. So keep those things in mind. I hope that's helped you. Keep the murmuring, complaining stuff in mind, right? Instead of complaining, maybe you should help. Right? Why isn't the person who's constantly complaining, right? What about this issue? What about that issue? What about this belief? What about the ones we already are doing? Right? Instead of complaining about those, why don't you help us with these? Right? No one's even talking about that stuff. And it seems like you're the only one interested in that. Instead of worrying about all that, why don't you come over here with us on this? This is a lot more important than all that stuff, okay? Instead of complaining, why don't you help? And if all you can do is complain, probably we don't need your help. All right, let me go grab the most important things for this evening. I'll be right back. You get to see Dada. Dada's here. Say hi, Dada. Like I said, I ran out of time earlier. So, very nice. Well, I am very happy to have been able to spend some time with all of you. And so, let me just check. Let me go ahead and say hello to everybody. We had Bankhead, Answord Tree, Everett Commodore. We also, unfortunately, had Maltop's TV completely collapse and basically disintegrate into a cesspool of reference, right? Terrible. Good job letting him have it as well, Everett. He deserved that. It's very, very, very poor taste, Maltops. Miroslav, yes. Of course, we did have Betsy. And Lowell Watt, good to see you. George Lopez, very nice. I know, it's everywhere, George. Everywhere. Tarantula Clan. Very good. Looks like you guys had a very good time in there. And Rafaela Rivera. Very true. The alphabet community doesn't get it. They enjoy confrontation. That's true. Right? They're worse than the Trinitarians. Like I said, right? I mean, because well, I guess it depends, right? Depends on which one. Either way, okay. So once again, part of what we do is we when we come together like this as part of our group, we regularly proclaim the coming of our Lord, Jesus the Messiah, the sent forth one. We do exactly what he told us to do. We partake of his body and his blood as Christians. Watchtower people, you're missing out. This we would love to have more and more of you because we know you're close to us in our views, but you've adopted this other set of beliefs that's based on an outdated model of understanding these end time prophecies. And I am probably the most shocked of all that the society is continuing that great crowd doctrine. I guess it's pretty much all they can do, right? I mean, at this point, what else can they do? They won't be able to turn it around and then just say, well, all those other people we told they weren't to partake, Jah will figure it out, right? It's so terrible, right? The positions they're putting everybody in and forcing them basically to continue to pretend they're the great crowd. Not even here yet. What are you talking about? And they've been telling it, right? It's almost like a false prophecy. Definitely a false teaching, right? I mean, they've basically been telling everybody that they have been for almost 100 years straight the great crowd that only appears after the tribulation, right? That is incredible to me. And that is preventing millions of Watchtower people who worship the same God we do, follow the same Messiah we do, same golden rule, right? But for some reason, and we know why, we understand, but we're past all that, right? A lot of them are not. We have to be patient, but that's what's happening. Right? We would have a lot more people with us. Now, not everyone. I think a lot of people are in the organization just because they really do believe that this is it's their only chance to make it out of here, right? But they're not really sincere believers, right? They're just trying to save themselves, right? And that would be true for any group, right? There's a lot of people in different groups just because they think it's their only way out, right? So their motivation's not quite there. Sonia Carbajal says, as ex-followers of JW, I can say it's about Oh, you retracted it, Sonia. I was going to. All right. Well, we'll let it go then. I thought what you said was true. Either way, it's good to see you. And let's go ahead and partake. So, again, I would hope that many of you Watchtower people, if you continue to start to lose faith in the society, we will help you, right? Don't feel like you have to abandon everything just because you no longer believe what they're telling you, right? In terms of the chronology and great crowd stuff. No, you don't need to abandon Jah, Jesus, or the Golden Rule just because those are not true, okay? So we're here for you if you need us. We do this, right? While a lot of Watchtower people may watch us partake and be like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Right? I can't believe it. Yeah, this is like the most normal thing for a Christian to do. I know Watchtower people. I was the same way. I thought, well, I'm not going to touch that because we were misled. We were misled into believing in a system of chronology that had us thinking we're like right. They're like any day is like not, it can happen any second. So we just felt that the number of anointed was so low and we were at the end and we thought we were the great crowd that wasn't here yet. And that's where you are. Once you come out of there, you just step right into the normal place that you're supposed to be anyway, because the great crowd is not here. So you're supposed to be just partaking of the bread and wine whenever you come together, like Paul says, not just once a year, but hey, you do however you want. There's no rules here. You do what your conscience requires without forcing your views on other people. And a lot of you Watchtower people, that'd probably be the most difficult part for you to adjust to. Not judging other people, right? It's Christmas Eve in the United States and some other countries. So if some people choose to celebrate Christmas not in a pagan way, and others choose not to, in our group, that's okay. We don't represent celebrating or not celebrating as a group. We represent three things. That's it. The rest is up to you. So that means that people can choose to celebrate Christmas if they want to. You may not, well, you may think it's totally pagan. Another person may not. Guess what? You're not the judge of that other person. And that other person isn't the judge of you. Sonia, that's interesting. Well, you could tell me more about that if you want, Sonia, if you want to discuss it. Um, if some of the things, if you because you're talking about some of your past as a witness and things like that. If you want to email me now, remember, I cannot all respond to all my email because it's just often too much, and I don't know a lot of you to continually extend conversations. But I'm curious about some of your situations, and if you want to talk to me a little bit, if I have time and if I respond right, you can email me using CWJAHTUBE, CWJatube at gmail.com. If you want to tell me like a little more about yourself, your story and stuff, that I would like to know more about. I don't want to just be answering a lot of questions off video and stuff I've already either answered or you could probably answer it. Right? I'll help you if you really need it, but I'm more so interested in learning about a lot of you and your experiences, right? So if you want to do that, drop me an email, let me know, and I'd be happy to learn more about you and maybe correspond a little bit. Other than that, let's do what we came to do, right? So we thank God the Father for allowing us to come together and to speak about Him and His Son and the things that we need their help with, including resisting the wicked one and not giving in to our temptations and being forgiven when we do and forgiving others when they do. We thank you for all those things and we pray for your kingdom to come, for your will to be done on earth as in heaven. and for your name to be sanctified. In the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen, right? I appreciate you too, Sonia. And you as well, Rafaela. And all of you, Lowell, George, Tarantula Clan, Bankhead, Miro. I read you all off earlier. I'm very happy with our group and just being able to spend time with even one of you, let alone many of you, and to be able to proclaim the coming of the Lord the way we do, and to be able to talk about issues that affect us all so we can be better prepared going forward to praise Jah. So with that, I bid you all good night, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it may be, wherever you may be. I will be back tomorrow, probably around 10 or 11 California time, tomorrow morning, so like not too far off. Another open session. We'll talk about a lot of stuff. And then I have another video. I have several, really. But I'm trying not to do a bunch of Trinitarian video uploads, even if they're just issues related to Trinitarianism, because they come up a lot, right? And that's just the way it is. But I'm trying to space them out a little bit so I don't have like a whole bunch, or at least as many as there could be if I didn't space them out. So with that, once again, thank you all for joining me. I will see you again soon, and may Jah bless you. In Jesus'